what I wanted to do is I wanted to be the person that I wish I would have known, right? I wanted to be the dad in the stands who was always talking about good advice and stuff like that. And so I started posting on Instagram. I saw there was a lot of motivational stuff out there, and it was always like Wayne Gretzky, 100% of the shots you don't take, and Michael Jordan, I missed 10,000 shots. And I was like, this is like, it's the same stuff over and over. I'm like, I can make up quotes like this. So I started thinking, and I came up with the flagship quote was, winners aren't born, they just practice more than everybody else. And what I learned is that systems produce results. No matter what you do, if you want to accomplish XYZ, you have to do ABC. And so while you can't predict the future, you can predict in the direction you're going to go and the odds of your chances of success. And so once I learned that, I was like, wow, that would have been a game changer for my son, for the kids on the team, for some of the athletes that weren't very good at all the way up to the athletes that were the best. Systems are systems. And so I started to generate content and figure out what kids needed to know. And you're right. I've done this for about 6 or 7 years. And just over the last year, it's really taken off. And I have discovered that you don't really have to go into great detail about stuff. You just need a generality and a game plan, right? Which is why when you were asking me about interviewing me with my 10, your 10 favorite posts. I love that. I love scrolling back through the account and I find something I post. I'm like, man, that's gold. That should be on a poster somewhere. Right. And so I love reflecting and reviewing because as anything goes, you have to look at where you were, where you're at and where you want to go. Right. And then make course corrections. So I'm just, again, since you brought that subject up, I've been so excited. And I finally today, I was like, all right, let's talk about the old school.
Let's get into it. Perfect segue. Let's get started. First of 10, no screen time, 60 minutes before a game makes you a better athlete. So simple, so easy. Why bring that up? Why do you think that's a game changer?
So I get that kids are on social media, right? And so when my kids were in high school, the varsity always plays last. So they're sitting in the stands while the JV's playing. It usually goes girls games, boys games. So you see a lot of the athletes in the downtime before the game starts, right? And they were always on their phones. And yeah, they have warm-ups. They'll go into the locker room at some point and come out and do stuff like that. But they were like this, they're sitting there, they're on their phones. They might be showing their friends something, but nobody's thinking about the game, right? They're involved in their own little world, right? And so teams, I believe, need to have chemistry to be successful. That's the bottom line. You can have good players and put together some teams that can get some wins and stuff like that. But when you have true team chemistry, that's a whole different level of how you play. Right. That's how you win multiple championships. That's how you just, some guys go on to college and stuff. And so there's a mental process that you go through before you go into competition, right? Just before you do anything, the brain thinks a certain way. It does certain things. It releases certain chemicals. And so I'm a big believer of, and even a more hot take on this is I'd say no phones on the buses during travel time, right? And everybody hates that. And the thing I get back the most is, well, I'm getting hyped for the game. What about music? I'm looking at plays. No, okay, maybe music, right? But that's not what I'm really talking about. And honestly, I don't think you should be plugged in because you are taking yourself away from the rest of the team. If you're listening to music and yeah, you're there and they're like, well, hey, these professional athletes do it. They see them. That's a business. Those guys are not in high school trying to make it to the next level. And when they probably were on their phones 24/7, right? Once you get to a certain level of play, it ratchets up a notch. And so I wanted to make sure that students, if you really want to take it to the next level and the next level might just be more playing time. Maybe you're on the JV team and the next level is the varsity team, right? You have to be doing everything in your power to get there, everything to give you the edge, especially if you're not top talent. And so one of those things you can do is mentally prep before a game. Visualization is a huge thing. Think about the game strategy, right? Check the other team out, right? Is somebody limping? Like just pay attention, be in the moment, right? And I get a lot of pushback from some athletes that don't like it, but I get so many more shares. And that's one of the reasons why my account blew up was the content that you create. If somebody shares it with somebody, that's a great thing. Like if you see a good movie and you want to tell your friend about it, that means it was a great movie and you think it has value, right? And so I'm always trying to provide that value in the posts. So it's really and I'm kind of going off topic here a little bit, but I'll bring it back. It's really about being in the moment before the game. 100%. Right. And like I said, if you want to make it to the next level, you have to do everything you can. And if you're like, well, what am I going to do? I don't get much playing time. You got to make the most of your playing time. And to make the most of your playing time, you got to be in the moment. Right. So it's all kind of full circle. It's really just be there with the team. In 20 years, you're not going to be talking about what you scrolled and saw that day. You're going to be talking about you guys were in the stands and you guys were watching the game and I don't know, Jimmy farted and it was like, those are the core memories that you'll have. And if you don't have those times with the guys or the ladies, if you're on a girls team, you got nothing. You got a lot of empty, here's the one thing. Athletes, when you get older, the wins will count a little bit. They'll count a little bit. But the time you spend with your teammates and the time you spend with the guys, that is the true essence of sports. And that's what brings you real happiness because you're not going to win all the time. You might play for 4 or 5 years and never win a championship, right? So are you going to be miserable at your sports career? No. You'll have that game where you scored the winning touchdown or whatever it is. And all those memories. And that's what it's really about. So it's really about teamwork and being one with the team. For the longest answer ever to a short answer, is just being with the team and being one with the group. Cause that's really, you guys are in the fight. It's all you.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I would have thought from reading that post, I would have thought that what you meant was that it helps you concentrate more on the game, which is definitely what you said. But your argument is more about team chemistry and remembering those moments, which is spot on. I mean, I played D1 soccer at Cal and I graduated in 2023. So I've been removed from the program for about a year and a half now. And talking to some of my friends that just graduated this past semester, they were saying that what they will miss the most isn't necessarily the games nor the travel. It'll be showing up at the field at 9 a.m. to have practice and it's all quiet and you just get to mess around with the guys for a bit and then back to serious work. And then you go back to the locker room and that's where you have a bit more fun and mess around. And those are the little things that you for sure forget. And my alumni group chat in which we chat every single day, it's all just memories from things we were doing, not soccer related. Like, sure, we could remember something from a practice or a game, but nobody talks about that. We talk about the moments in between. And I think that's spot on from what you're mentioning. But to connect that to the second point of how to continue improving here, if your screen time is greater than your practice time, you're never allowed to complain about your playing time. Is this even possible to do nowadays?
It's difficult, but it's doable. And that's actually, that's my favorite post. And I came in with that one a long time ago. And originally it was bench time. No, it said screen time. And then it had the greater than sign, right? And then practice time equals bench time, right? And then I was like, that's kind of long and it wouldn't fit. And so I tweaked it a little bit and I came in with that. And it's 100% true, right? If you show me your phone, and all phones have timers on them. Like if you look up, it'll tell you how much time you spent on Instagram, how much time you spent on YouTube, like all those metrics, right? Nobody ever wants to look at those because they're horrible. And you feel bad, but you're like, oh, well. And so if you told me you wanted to be a next level athlete and I looked at your phone and you had 6 hours of social media, you don't really want to be an athlete. you like playing the game, which is cool. And you maybe you're winning, which is cool, but you're not looking at next level play, whatever the next level is. Right. And this is another one where they're like, well, I'm watching game film you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. It ain't game film. It's none of that stuff. Right. And screen time equals Netflix. Screen time equals, if you're playing video games, right? Fortnite, that's screen time. Anything that is non-educational, if you are educating yourself, that doesn't count. Even if you're doing it on a screen. I'm talking entertainment value screen time. And so a lot of players always, coach hates me. Coach doesn't like me, right? Coach probably doesn't like your habits. He can probably tell you're not putting in the work, right? He knows what you're doing because he can listen. When you're on a team and it's performance related, it's movement, it's strength, and stuff like that. You can't lie about whether you're putting in the work or not. It shows on the field. The game never lies. Game film never lies, right? So somebody said, I can't remember who it was. Somebody said, show me your habits and I'll show you your future. Another one's show me your friends and I'll show you your future, but show me your habits and I'll show you your future. Well, if you put in 2 hours a day on practice and you put in 4 hours a day on screen time, you're not going to make it. And I don't think you're really serious. Now, that being said, I'm not saying no screen time. The average person looks at their screen average 6 hours a day, right? Cut that in half. I'm still giving you 3 hours out of the day, right? Or cut 2 hours off of it. I don't care. Just cut it down, right? Cause that's truly go back to talking about systems. What are your habits? And scrolling on Instagram for 3 hours a day. And I'll do the same thing. You can't, it's a fight that's very difficult to win because I pick up my phone and I go to say, oh, I'm just going to go check something. And then 30 minutes later, I haven't even checked it. Right. And I found that social media, you waste your time 15 minutes at a time because I found myself, that's how long I notice that I've been scrolling before I notice. It's like 15 minutes. Right. So if you really want to be a next level athlete, can I tell by your habits? And one of your habits is your screen time. And if your screen time is greater than your practice time, that's fine, but don't complain about your playing time. And that's the first. Here's the deal. You've made it when you see your quotes on somebody else's post. That's when you've made it, right? Because somebody is actually like, and that's different than a repost because they're trying to take that into their psychology and how they talk about the game and how they're trying to help athletes and stuff. And here's the deal. Anything that I do or say it's nothing that nobody else doesn't know. Right. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a nothing. I just pay attention. And one of the things that I've learned over the time is that social media, I got another post. I hope this isn't one of your favorite ones, but I have robbed more people of their dreams than procrastination and laziness combined. And it's a quote. And then it says social media, right? There's going to be so much greatness in this generation that is untapped because of social media. Now it's a great thing. I would have never had the reach that I have without it, but it's like a brick. Do you break a window with it or do you build a hospital? Right? What do you do with it? And that's what I'm talking about with social media. If your screen time is greater than your practice time, don't complain about the playing time.
I think that the key there especially is to understand how social media and that screen time transfers to other things, because it's not necessarily just being on social media that I believe you're talking about, but it's the consequences of being on it. For example, if you're in bed watching social media before going to sleep, that's going to mess with your sleep, and messing with your sleep is going to mess with your performance. So it's like adding on those separate things. Or I mean, personally, like from everything you said, if you already did your practice, if you already did your weightlifting, if you already did your injury prevention, if you already did your film, if you already did the scouting on the other team, if you already know who you're going to be marking in the game, you know all of that. And on top of that, you already did your homework. You already got ahead for the days that you're going to be gone for travel for the competition. If you already did all of that, go ahead and spend time on the screen and then like an hour before going to bed, turn it off. With that being said, if you've done all of that, that's naturally how you reduce your time. It's not about just taking it away. It's about reallocating that same time to other things. And I think that's what you're talking about of, well, I'm not getting the minutes that I want, but I'm also not watching film, and I'm also not hitting the weights, and I'm also not doing injury prevention, and I'm also not doing scouting and film and all these separate things. I think that's what you're talking about. Am I right?
That's 100%. And what you just said, you could take, there was so much knowledge nuggets in what you just said. You have systems in there. You were talking about like that, just that comment that you made right there could be an entire podcast, but you're right. It's okay to do the things that you want to do when you've done the things that you need to do. Right. And if you want to be an athlete and go to the next level, again, at any level, whatever your level is, could be C team to JV, right? You have to do everything in your power to get there, because as a student athlete, you only got so many years in school. Like there's a finite amount of time. Now you can play sports the rest of your life, right? But this chance in high school, very limited, right? Junior high, high school, right? First years of college, whatever it is. But yeah, you have to, it's like you said, you can't take it away. You have to replace it. You can't quit a bad habit. You have to replace a bad habit, right? So that's what I'm talking about. That was a huge, you should that piece right there. I'm gonna take some notes from that. That's a ton of information, right? You take that right there and that's an entire course. That's an entire, like, there's so much to student athletes nowadays. And this is what I'm talking about. I wish I would have been the guy that I knew, right? Just because any edge you can give your kid playing, because let's be honest, as a parent, the only thing you want to do is watch your kid play in the game. That's all you want to do. As an athlete, all you want to do is play in the game. That's it. That's what everything is about. Nobody, I mean, yeah, go next level, but if you're not playing in the game and you're going to practices, like that's, and there's roles. You got to know your role, right, on the team, but you can always change your role on the team. You can always become better.
And I think it definitely comes with just understanding where, or like how you can improve. For example, everybody just cares about the game, right? Everybody cares about the result. And I think that's one of the harshest realities I've had to learn, which is that nobody cares about how hard you worked if you can't provide the results. And that's a harsh reality. That's just how it goes. But the interesting thing there is nobody will care about the results if you don't work hard to get them, because they go hand in hand. So it's complicated, and it's just sacrificing what you want to do for what you need to do, short term, long term, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's one of those things that just ties up with priorities, which leads us to the very next one. Stop saying you don't have time. Your life will be the result of your priorities. You make the time. Do you think it's a matter of maturity, or what does it take for people to realize this?
So I don't know if it's a level of maturity, because everybody knows what to do. Only the people that want to do it, right? Everybody knows that if you want to become better, you got to do X, Y, Z. We're talking about systems, right? You want to become a better, Call of Duty player. What do you got to do? You got to put in the hours, right? Like it's a system. You know what to do, right? And so you basically have to think about what your priorities are, because everybody's got the same 24 hours in a day. The richest man in the world, the poorest man in the world, the best basketball player in the world, and the worst basketball player in the world. Everybody's got 24, right? And it's what you do with your 24. Now, you asked me, is it about being mature, right? I think it's really got to be wanting what you want, right? And you really have to say, okay, I'm going to make the time. Some people say find the time, right? But you have to say, okay, for 30 minutes a day, I'm going to watch film. Now listen, and people are like, watching film, I don't have any film. I'm not talking about film about you. Like you don't need to watch you, right? You need to watch people that are better than you and watch that game film. And if you just search YouTube, whatever your sport is, and then game film, and they'll have some of the best, This is the other thing. I wish I had YouTube when I was playing sports. You could literally get the best breakdowns and analysis of why this is happening in the game and why, why this creates that and stuff like that. And skill in sports comes in one of two ways. You're just more talented and you can do whatever you want, right? And that usually comes doing in at some level because everybody gets as good as they are, right? And the other thing is you can get your results by making the other team do certain things. If you're on, like basketball, if you know that doing this, like if you know how to drive when the guy's on his off foot, you're going to pick up so much information on why you do what you do, not how to do it, but why you do it. Right. And so to circle back around, if you looked at your day and you were honest, and this is the first thing when I work with athletes that I tell them to do, I say, don't do anything different for 2 weeks. I said, but write down what you do every day and just write it down. Like and it not like brush my teeth 3 minutes. It's like, got up 7 a.m., got ready for school, 7:38 breakfast or whatever. Right. And then you'll be able to see that you have much more time than you think you have. You have much more time than you think you have, right? 24 hours a day, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work or school, leaves 8 hours. Okay. Take 2 of those hours for travel, whatever. That's 6 hours. Don't tell me you don't have the time. You got 6 hours a day, right? Well, I got to do homework and okay, fine, whatever, right? But when you break it down, you have to want it bad enough to say, I would rather watch game film than watch, I don't know, whatever, something else, right? Whatever the streamers or whatever, those dudes, right? You listen to dude, how many athletes are listening to streamers for hours a day, right? See, I'm old. That's why I was trying to think of the word. Like, what are those guys called? Not YouTube, but the other dudes like Twitch and whatever, all that stuff, right? Come on, man. Cut that out. You cut that out. The other guy's not going to cut it out. You're going to beat him. Take their position, take their spot, take their scholarship, take their, whatever, man. It's all about your dedication and what you really want. 100%.
I think that's what it is. I mean, action just reflects priorities. If you really want to get to know someone, you have to notice how they spend their money and their time, in my opinion, because these are two important, very limited resources that reflect attention and values, if you really think about it. So what do I mean by that, especially in college, right? You could spend some sort of dollars on a night out, or you could save up that exact same money and buy some recovery tool that you're missing, that you quote unquote can't afford, but you can afford the drinks when you're going out. So it's like, which one do you want more type of thing, And I think about that often. It's like that reflects your values and your priorities. Same thing with time. It's the exact same thing. With time, it's attention. With money, it tends to be values, but it's just what you care about more. And that's how it's reflected. So if you have that extra time, what do you want more? Do you want to be entertained or do you want to be focusing on the film? Do you want to be stretching? Like it's really dumb little things like stretching, and you don't think about it, but you could stretch and watch film at the same time. Like it's not that complicated, like that's very, very doable. You could even, here's a crazier thing. You could stretch and watch the streamers at the same time. But it's never been easier, but that's the thing. I think the digital age, it's a paradox because it's never been easier to succeed, but it's also never been easier to fail because of those same distractions. And
that's a crazy quote. That's a crazy quote right there. Because it's 100%. It's 100%. It's just one of the things that I hated the most of watching my son's friends grow up. I saw wasted talent. I saw wasted potential. Right? There's 2 dudes that I know, if they would have kept their heads on straight, and it wasn't like they got off track, but there was no direction. Right? And they were so good, they were just able to float around to these teams and play and do this, right? But there was and some of that I put on on the coach. Some of that I put on the athlete. Some of that I put on the parents, right? But the athlete can only do, he's really in charge. He's really in charge, right? But the athlete can only do what he knows. He can't do beyond what he knows, right? Which is what takes it to the level of the coaches, right? And the parents. And if you as a parent don't know and you see your kid putting time in, but they're plateauing, you're going to have to figure out where that is. Now, the great thing is like you said, they could stretch and watch it on YouTube, you know, and it's the little things. I know you're a big fan of, Atomic Habits and stuff, right? And that's the 1%, what was it? The bicycle team from England or whatever. The dumb little things, 1%, right? Changing the way changing the pillows that they used. So they got a better night's sleep and it gave them a 1% edge. And it's greatness is made from thousands of little things.
Which leads us in perfect transition to the next one. Average athletes think practicing fundamentals is what beginners do. Great athletes know practicing fundamentals is what champions do. Again, if it's that simple, if it's that straightforward, what's stopping us from doing this? If we know it's that simple, why not do it?
Dedication. You don't really want it, right? Because it really is the essence of just figuring out what do you want and what do you need to do, right? Okay. But now let's talk about fundamentals. And here's the reason why. There's two levels of play. There is the skill of doing whatever you're doing, right? Soccer, dribbling, basketball, dribbling, football, running, throwing, blocking, whatever. There's that physical skill. And then the next level is what they call game IQ, where you know what to do, when you need to do it and why you need to do it and the result that you're going to get. That's like a quarterback reading the defense. The quarterback can't read the defense if he's thinking about 1, 2, 3, drop, pump my arm, if he's thinking about the mechanics of the throw, right? So like I know basketball players, and basketball players are the most telling because when they're dribbling the ball coming up the court, are they comfortable with it or are they not? Are they looking up, surveying what's going on, or are they focused on the ball? If you're focused on the skill, you can't focus on the game IQ. You can't focus on the rest of it, right? And you only transition to that level when you do that skill like a second nature. You don't even think about it. The example I use is brushing your teeth. When you were a kid, brushing your teeth was very hard to do, right? You had to learn how to do it and whatever, right? Or tying your shoe, very difficult. But once you learned it and it became second nature, muscle memory, all that other stuff, it's like you're not doing it. And when you do the fundamentals every day, at that level, they become automatic. And now you're a next level player, right? And so now you're taking advantage of, you see he's on his off step. So I'm actually going to go the other way because he's got to take 2 steps to catch up with me now and I'm gone. Whatever, right? Sports is, I don't know, what was that movie with, sports is a game of inches. Actually, it says football is, but all sports are, right? Half seconds. Sports is half seconds. And you don't have to be a ton better than somebody else. You just got to be a half second faster. Now, can you do that with all the resources and tools and free times and all that stuff that we have here? You absolutely can. You just got to do it. You just got to do it.
My friend Nikos de la Gramaticas, he has a great LinkedIn account. He's a NCAA champion for water polo. Great athlete, great leader. And one of his posts from earlier this week, he posted, "To be extraordinary, you just have to do the ordinary extra. Champions do daily what everybody else does occasionally." And to me, it kind of blew my mind because I think about how words are structured, and you think about ordinary and extraordinary, and by just saying like doing the ordinary extra, and it really is that simple. And to use that basketball example, right? I will never forget the video of Steph Curry warming up and just literally not even dribbling, just walking and bouncing the ball. And then he finds this dead spot. And he knew exactly that, he knew that it was a dead spot. He's so good at just bouncing the ball that he knew it was nothing wrong with the ball. It was nothing wrong with him. He knew, oh, that's a dead spot. And that's like an advantage. Same thing with Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe would know, he knew where the dead spots were on the court. He knew what would happen if a player planted on his left foot instead of his right. Little things like that. It was ridiculous. Kobe obviously is very famous for how much he studied film, but it's the tiniest things there. And I think the point Nikos makes of doing the ordinary extra leads to the extraordinary is just fabulous.
It's 100%. It's really, and watching some of my favorite videos on like Instagram and stuff are Kobe breaking down film, or like the pump fake when he says, listen, here's how you read a pump fake. If their feet are, if they're not, balanced and they go to pump, they're not shooting the ball like that. Why even go up? Don't even, like, he was so, and I think that's what made Kobe so special, right? I mean, it's very sad that he was taken from us way too early, right? But when you look at Kobe and what everybody admires him for is just doing the work and just doing the work, right? And it's really, he has the same 24 that everybody does, right? But he was so next level where, like, you talk the mental aspect, there's a lot of players that talk trash, they're famous trash talkers, right? To throw guys off their game and stuff like that. And that's one thing, but all that person has to do is just mentally tune you out and not let it impact them. And now you don't have an advantage anymore. But Kobe knew the mechanics of the game. So he knew how to get the advantage, and there was nothing you could do about it. Nothing.
It's hilarious that you bring up the trash talking as well, because obviously Kobe was a smart trash talker, and I don't remember the guy's name, but there's this clip from an interview explaining how smart Kobe's trash talking was. And it was that Kobe's going down the court, gets fouled, and all his teammates are hyping the guy up. Great foul, great stop of the transition, this, that. And Kobe just looks at them and says, who are you guarding this game? Well, you, Kobe. And how many fouls do you have? 5 now. And he says, that's the issue. You need all 6 to guard me, and we have a whole game ahead of us. And it's just like thinking about the little details like that, and everybody's face obviously goes stone cold, but it's being smart about your choices and how it impacts the game rather than thinking about a transition. But in the long run, it's like, well, you're probably going to get fouled out. And I think that the interesting thing, obviously we're talking football, basketball here, but the interesting thing is that we see it across all sports and everywhere in life, right? I mean, obviously there's the Bruce Lee quote of, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Then there's there's a soccer legend, a European world football, as we would say, a legend, Johan Cruyff, that says, playing football is very simple, but playing simple football is the hardest thing there is. And that's just, it's crazy because you think about, oh, I could do this trick shot. I could do this move. I could do this skill. But essentially, it's just like any sport, if you really break it down, put the ball in the back of the net, get the ball to the end zone, put the ball in the basket, all these little things. And you get so caught up in the skill, in the move, in the highlight tape that you forget the essence of the game. And if you just do that, you'll probably get pretty damn good at it.
Yeah. I love a good quote. I love running a quote. That's why I love reading books and stuff, right? Like you get a quote that just sometimes it just resonates, right? And I mean, it makes you just stop and go, wow. Like out loud, you go, wow. That was such an incredible quote. And so that Bruce Lee one, that's just a mind bender, man. It's like that. And it's so simple. And like you said the other day, playing it simple is the hardest thing to do. It's so, especially nowadays, because everybody's about the YouTube moment, right? The doing this and the that and the whatever. Just get the stats. Just rack up the points. Who cares what it looks like? Who cares? Nobody it's just, yeah, it's all about the look at me, right? They just want that viral moment. Well, I'll tell you what, a 10-point average with 10 viral moments is worth as much as a 20-point average with no viral moments, right? If you want to go next level.
Essentially, a dunk is worth the same amount of points as a layup.
Mm-hmm. That's what my dad says all the time. All the time. That's my dad's quote right there. And I mean, I get it. I mean, he grew up in the realm of Dr. J and stuff like that. And so dunks were huge and stuff, but now they're unnecessary. But again, I mean, if I could dunk, I'd be dunking it. What am I talking about? I'd be dunking it every time. So, it is what it is. And that's the great thing about sports, man, is you have all these memories. You'll grow up. There's nothing like watching a sports clip from the past that's just was a fantastic moment in your life for whatever reason, right? Everything was going good or whatever it was, or, sports is magical. 100%.
It's truly a metaphor for life, and it applies to everything, which is why I enjoy breaking all of these down. And moving on to the next one to continue with the metaphor for life, I think this may be one of the hottest takes you have from all your posts. If you want to increase your GPA, keep your room clean. Where does that come from? What's the correlation there?
That is, man, that's my best post ever. That was the post that took me to the stratosphere, right? That was the turning corner. And because that post got shared like 346,000 times shares, and I only had like 20,000 likes on it, right? So parents weren't even liking it. They were sending it to their kid. And that's not even the ones they do in the comments. I mean, they were like send, share. And I'm like, as a parent, part of me laughed. I'm like, I just had 250,000 people tell their kid to clean their room. 250,000 said your room isn't clean enough. I'm going to send you this on Instagram. And what that comes from is, and there's people on there like, oh, my kid has a really messy room and got a 4.5. Yeah. Like I get it. They're the outliers, right? And awesome that they can work in that environment because they're going to be successful at what they do. But environment has a correlation to success, I believe. Cluttered life, cluttered mind, right? You can't be, actually take a step back. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? And people hate looking at themselves. And listen, evaluating yourself and being honest is hard to do. Once you're honest with yourself, it's even, for some reason, it's even harder to do what you need to do. Because now you're fully admitting that what you were doing was wrong and wasn't the right choice and all that other stuff, right? But yeah, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you I have a system and a process for like doing homework, right? Like you do your homework in the exact same spot and you don't do anything else in that spot. You don't play your video games there. Listen, if you're an athlete or a student and you do your homework at the same computer you play your games on or in the same spot, total self-sabotage. All you can think about is playing video games. That's all your brain wants to do, right? So that's a totally separate topic. But when your room is clean and your areas are clean and they're crisp, right? There's just this sense of excellence, right? It's pristine. It's very clean. And so you're like, that's how I do things. I am somebody who pays attention to the details, right? The one soda can sitting on the dresser, you're like, it's one soda can. It's not a big deal. It's the detail, right? So it shouldn't go there. It should be in the trash. And you're like, I'm the type of person who will do the little extra. And if you're the type of person that'll do the little extra and cleaning your room, because that's hard to do. Keeping your room clean is hard to do, right? It's because it's your room and you're comfortable in it. And it's clothes on the floor and they're my clothes. It doesn't matter. But how you live your life and the environment around you, the same at work. If you got a messy desk, right? And everybody, I don't know if kids nowadays in elementary school, if they have desks that open up with the lid, you keep all your stuff in. You always had the kids who had the very clean desks and you always had the kids who were super messy, right? Lockers, backpacks, right? You could tell a lot about somebody by looking at their backpack, right? Is all their stuff shoved at the bottom and they got 27 assignments down there? Or is it like everything organized and stuff like that? So if you keep your room clean, mentally, you're somebody who pays attention to the details. If you're somebody who pays attention to the details, you're probably going to know when your next test is. You're probably going to know when finals are. You're probably going to know these things. I know this book report is due in 2 weeks. Like, you know it, right? And knowing the exact details of something gives you a serious advantage over somebody who's like, I just know it's due in the future. Right? You got to be very specific when it comes to your schoolwork. It's all about time management. And if you want to play in college, you got to have the grades nowadays and stuff like that. Right? So your area is clean because you're somebody who pays attention to the details. So when it comes to your academics, you're somebody who pays attention to the details. It's not cluttered in here. This is where I do my homework. This sitting down at this desk in this chair, it's homework time. And if people are like, nah, that doesn't really, that's just mindset stuff or whatever. If you play a sport, what happens to your brain when you walk into the locker room? Switch, game time, game day. Like your brain physically changes your body. I'm getting goosebumps. Your body changes. It's game day. There's something different about game day. You can take that same thing because your brain does the same thing. When I sit down here at this very clean area in this very clean, all I do is homework and I excel at it. And since I excel at it, and again, you don't have to be a super genius to get good grades in school. All you got to do is just pay attention to the details, have a little time management, right? Your study time doesn't need to be 3-4 hours a day. If you know how to study smarter, right? What type of learner are you? But this is all things you got to find out. And most people who are just casual about their room and they're casual about their lives, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But those are the guys who end up like me. I was casual during my high school years. Like I wasn't like focused. I didn't know. I didn't have all these little, I didn't know the edges and paying attention to detail by keeping your room clean. And that's another thing. There's that colonel or whoever said, start the day with making your bed, right? You start off with a win. It's really just about what you do. And if you clean your area constantly, and I'm not talking about OCD and I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I got to dust it every day. I'm like, what a clean room. Listen, this is how clean I want your room. I want your room so clean. It's as clean as when you go get your parents and say, hey, you want to see my room? On that day, that's because you're proud of what I did. Why do you do that? All you did was clean your living space. Like big deal, right? Shouldn't everybody do that? No, you took it to the next step and you were proud. And it was such an improvement. You wanted to tell your parents. You wanted your parents to come to the room and say, man, this room is clean. You did a good job. You did a good job. And, if you do that and take those extra steps, it'll correlate to anything and everything in your life. Because like I said, how you do anything is how you do everything.
The craziest bit about that is that, again, there's so many correlations with sports and even work and whatever it may be. That is, if you do it 5 minutes a day, you'll be great. But if you skip some days, then it stacks up to 10, 15, 25, 30, 35, 40, an hour. And you're going to want to do it less. But if you do it 5 minutes every single day, it just becomes so much easier in the long run. It's just that compound interest, if you want to call it that. But you explained what the correlation is, and I totally get it. I'm wondering if you could share some tips of what people could do to keep their room clean, to then improve their GPA, to then improve their playing time, to then accomplish more of their goals that they're looking to get.
Basically, you have to have a system. Again, it comes back to systems and processes, right? Cleaning your room is no different. I want you to imagine that somebody who's rich pays you to clean their room. They pay you $1 million a year to clean their room. What would you do to clean the room? Okay, I would need to vacuum. I would need to dust. I would need to make sure all my pens and pencils are over here in this area. I need to make sure my bookshelf is clean. I need to make sure the bed is made. I need to make sure there's no clothes on the floor, right? You throw in 2 or 3 more things. I need to make sure there's no dirty dishes in the room, right? So you create yourself a list of this is what a clean room would look like. Okay. How often do you need to do those tasks? Like you don't need to vacuum your room every day. So it's maybe once every 3 days or once a week or whatever. But everything else is pretty much every day, right? So make yourself a checklist. I need to do these 7 things because now it's not, I need to clean my room. It's, I need to do these 7 things. And these 7 things in reality probably take 30 seconds. Can I take that short amount of time to live in an area that's the cleanest one in the house or whatever? Or just, I got some pride in myself. Man, you guys are messy. Ain't nothing. Nobody hates a mess more than a clean person, right? Cause they're like, look how clean in this college, you guys find this out in college. You move in with roommates and you got a messy roommate, you got a clean roommate and all that other stuff. But Yeah. If you know you got to do 7 things and those 7 things take you 1 minute apiece, that's 7 minutes. It's no longer, I got to clean my room. It's, I need to do these 7 things for 7 minutes and my room will be clean. And you won't want to spoil a winning streak. You keep your room clean for 7 days, 14 days, your room ain't getting messy. It ain't going to get messy because you got pride in that and you're on a streak and you don't want to break it.
There's so many things there to break down. I think one of the funniest things, what you just brought up, right? The whole college situation. I've lived with plenty of guys in college, former teammates, and we would have that house and everything. And I think the funniest thing is that there is a correlation between the guy that gets the best grades and the best job after college and how clean his room is. It's ridiculous. Like it's a very legit thing. Again, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a must. But there was a very clear correlation of, oh, this guy is actually very clean. This guy cares about how he dresses, cares about how he presents himself. And he by far has the best job right out of college. And it was like all in those tiny details. He was the same guy that would lock himself in his room and not listen to anybody else until his homework was done and make sure, like, it was all the tiny details. And I think the funny thing is that you can combine these 2 ideas that I've been fascinated by. One that's continuously worked for me, which is Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian. Seinfeld has this idea of don't break the chain. So it's pretty much you get your calendar out and every single day that you accomplish your goal of cleaning the room, of getting whatever your goal is, you write an X over that day and then you do it again the next day. And once you have it that second day, you created a chain. And the idea is don't break the chain. And it sounds so simple and it sounds so stupid, just like, oh yeah, just some X's. But once you see it, you legit don't want to break the chain because you know what it means, you know what it represents, and you don't want to let yourself down. I think that's the easiest way to do something, to remember that you have a streak, to keep on going. And there's no better proof of that than apps like Snapchat and recently TikTok, that what they do to keep you on their app, to keep you using their app, is they will show you streaks of the friends that you're chatting with. It starts at 3 days. And it's like, if you're chatting with a friend 3 days in a row, that creates a streak. And then mentally it's like, oh, don't break the streak. It's the exact same thing. And you can apply it to yourself. And I think the last thing there is this idea of it takes less time than you think. And something I learned recently is Parkinson's law, that it pretty much says that any activity, any assignment will take as much time as you allow it to. So if you give yourself a week to get it done, it'll take a week. But if you give yourself an hour to get it done, it'll take an hour. It's just about how much time you're willing to allocate to that activity. And I think the obvious example of that is doing an assignment last minute. Oh, wow, I actually wrote that paper in an hour and it's pretty good. You had a month to do it and you waited until the very last hour just to prove to yourself that you could have done that. Like, imagine if you did that before and then you revisited that paper one more time, that draft, to turn in the final paper. It would have been phenomenal. And it wasn't supposed to take a month long. It was just an hour. But in your mind, you gave Parkinson's law, you allocated a month of time to this assignment when you could have just allocated an hour.
Yeah. Imagine that month of stress of, it's got to get done. It's got to get done. And you do it in an hour. Day 1, you could have done it in an hour and then revisited it 2 weeks later and spent an hour on it and had a month of stress-free living. Like I perform better under a deadline. No, that's just a way of saying I wait till the last minute, but I get it done. But I mean, that if it's going to take you a day to do it, you don't give yourself half a day. You give yourself a day. And if you really could have done it in a day, you should have done it in a day so long ago. Like it's all about priorities and stuff. And I mean, did I wait until the last minute? Sometimes, but sometimes I got it done first. That's like in elementary school. If you had to give a verbal book report, stand up in front of the class, they volunteer. First one to volunteer every single time. Number 1, I get the grace because I'm the very first one. And number 2, I didn't have to come up after somebody who knocked it out of the park, right? Get that out of the way. What's that called? Kiss the frog, something like that. Like
eat the frog.
Do the worst thing. Eat the frog. Do the worst thing that has to be done. Do it first and get it over with. And then you're done. You're chill. You're in chill mode. You get to watch everybody else have to give their speech, right? And you chilling. Do it first.
I think the thing about the deadline right there as well is it doesn't, like, if you do work better on your deadlines, good. Just give yourself an earlier deadline than whoever the authority figure was that gave you that deadline. So if it's your boss, if it's your teacher, whatever, just give yourself an earlier deadline for yourself. And that's the one last bit I wanted to touch before we move on to the next one. What you mentioned about if somebody pays you $1 million to clean your room, I think that's the hardest part. And something that works for me is I always show up on time when it's for somebody else. I can do that 10 out of 10 times. If somebody says, hey, we're going to hit a run at 5 a.m., I'll be there at 5 a.m. But people tend to struggle when there's nobody there holding them accountable. And to me, what changed was I realized, wow, I can respect other people, but I can't respect myself. So if somebody else asks me to do it, if somebody else gives me this assignment, if somebody else tells me show up at practice at this time, I'll do it. But if I say that to myself, I won't. And I thought about it as, like, I reframed it as you respect other people more than you respect yourself. And that to me just was a game changer. And I never wanted to feel that again. And that's what made me change everything. And I think it's in having those little details set out, not to have your room be clean, but to show yourself some respect. Because eventually in the long run, if you can't give yourself respect, you can't ask for it either. So I think it's playing around with that for sure.
It is. And that's just like you said, you don't lie to other people. You don't put up with other people lying to you, but you will lie to yourself every single day and break that promise to yourself and not think anything about it. So you've now conditioned yourself to, how many people late in the day, oh, tomorrow morning, I'm getting up, I'm doing it. Tomorrow's the day, right? Next morning. Yeah, not today. No, thanks. Right. And it's like, it's so easy to do. But you're 100%. If you told somebody else you'd be there, you definitely show up. You ain't going to leave your guys standing up at the top of a hill somewhere 5 a.m. like waiting where's bro? Right. You would never do that to them. And once you realize, like you said, you did, once you realize that to yourself, you're not it. You keep saying it. Sports is a microcosm. Your life will change 100%, 100%. And life is difficult enough. So why not give yourself the edge in everything that you do every day?
Next one. Average is the best of the worst and the worst of the best. Never be okay with average. You're better than that. Why? Why shouldn't people settle? Why not be comfortable? Why not enjoy it and have fun and be relaxed? If that's an option, that sounds so nice. Why not do it?
You can do that, right? But I'm talking about from the level of an athlete, right? And again, if you just want to play in high school and you don't have any plans of playing in college, like that's 100% okay. That's 100% okay, right? You just want to get out of class and go hang out with the guys. They're all your friends and they're all on the basketball team. And you're like, hey, if you join the basketball team, we get out days early and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. And then you're just the average guy. And most people are average. That's why they're called average. Right. But if you're going to dedicate time and you're going to dedicate resources, your resources are, and like you said earlier in another topic, time and money are two of your most valuable resources. Right. Because you give time to the things that you care about. Right. And you only have so much time. Money is the next thing. Now, yes, you can always make more money, but money is options. So if I'm going to take the option of sending my kid to this camp for $500 versus the option of doing something else with that $500, right? It's a resource and it has to go somewhere in the budget, right? So there's a lot of time being spent on you and there's a lot of resources being spent on you. And that's because your parents want to, right? It's not to make you feel guilty or whatever. I mean, it is what it is in today's age, right? It's, college teams. You got NIL stuff. Now it's about money. So now it's more intense. And so the high school kids are more intense and the parents are more intense and all that other stuff, right? And so you have to decide, and this is another, being average is just as much of a choice as being successful is. And again, there's nothing wrong with being average, but if your goal is to do, like, say you grew up in a family that was like, you struggled financially all the time, right? And your goal is just to never have to worry about going to the grocery store as an adult. Like, that's something that you make up your mind. I never want to struggle with food, right? Now, you don't have to make $1 million not to struggle with food, but that was your goal, right? And so average, successful, the best of the best, or the worst of the best of the worst. Life is very competitive, whether you want to admit that or not, right? And the choices you're going to make in life are going to determine the options that you have later. And the more options you have for anything is always a better anything. If there's only 2 phones to buy, it's better to have 10 phones to buy, right? You just want options, and you want those options in your life. And so, I mean, honestly, it's just about everybody. When I say you're better than that, everybody can be a little better than they are. Everybody can be, right? And it's really about, I want the athletes to know that the choices that they make have a direct impact on your life. And if you do the small things, like you say, clean your room, always make sure you turn your homework in on time, right? You always hit your macros, whatever it is, the little things. You always tell your mom and dad, I love you, before you go to bed. Something, you don't break the chain, right? Anything that you do, right, to be a better person, you just need to do it, because life is so fast now. It just passes you by. And before you know it, you're an old man like me. And I just want you guys to do better than I did. Every single one of you. Even you, man. You're a young buck. I don't know. You're definitely not as old as me. I'm 50, right? You guys have so much potential in you. So much potential in you. And the fact that 90% of people don't even show up with 100% no matter what you're doing, whether it's work or sports or, I don't care, your hobby, right? Most people don't even try because it's not important to them. So the fact that you're trying puts you in the top 10%. Now just try just a little bit harder, and now you're in the top 5%. And it doesn't take that much effort. Like you said, it's the ordinary and the extraordinary, right? Simple things.
Again, a perfect transition into the next one. Just because something is hard to do, that isn't a reason to not do it. It just means you'll have to work harder. So that means most people won't do it. Congratulations, your competition just got cut by 80%. Probably more like 90%. Now make it happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about.
I mean, those are your words as well. And I think the interesting thing there is, like, it's a hard thing to consider every now and then. And I'm curious what you think. Can anyone do it? Can anyone accomplish it? Is it an even playing field? Like, is that the case?
It depends on what you consider success. Is everybody going to make it to the NBA? No, because sports goes in 2 things. It's always the same game, but people increase in size and they increase in speed. So the game's played faster by bigger dudes, right? So if you had a skills competition and you were 5'6" and weighed 180 pounds, if you had a skills competition with somebody who is, 6'3", solid 250, right? Skills are the same, yes, but physically you can't compete against that dude, right? It's just very difficult to do. So you have to set up what your success is. So yeah, everybody can be successful. You would look at, now everybody wants to play pro. Everybody wants to, as a kid, you want to grow up being the NBA or, MLS, whatever, NBA, whatever your sport is, you want to be pro. By the time you get to high school, you've got a pretty good idea of whether you're going to be pro or not, right? Based on size, what you do every day, what your habits are and stuff like that. So if your goal is really to go play for, you need to you're going to go to college because you wanted to get a degree in engineering or whatever. So you need a 4-year degree. Well, I want to play sports as well. So I'm probably going to a D3, right? Or whatever, right? Like you set that, what that expectation is going to be just based on physical size and stature and strength and speed. Right now, yeah, Spud Webb, 5'3", won the dunk competition. I mean, that's 1 in a billion, right? So there's always the outliers again. But if you're probably going to top out at, you're playing baseball and you're going to play semi-pro, that's your goal or whatever. Can you make that if it's reasonable? 100%. 100%. Anybody can do anything. Now, are there level playing fields? Probably not. And that's probably going to be from a financial point of view, right? Can you afford all the camps? Can you afford this? Can you afford that? Right. But that's also offset by size and speed. So somebody who's small and got a lot of money has a lot of opportunities in one way, but somebody who's much bigger and better, but doesn't have as much money, they have opportunities the other way. So is it a level playing field in comparing apples to apples? No. Comparing apples to oranges across the whole, spectrum? Probably. But I mean, again, some people are just going to have it better and some people are just athletically gifted. And, you always know the kids who are going to make it. So can anybody do anything? Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to dedicate your time and your effort to the right choices. Say no to the wrong things that you need to say to. And because here's the other thing. Your goal as a kid might be to play in the NBA. But by the time you're in high school, say you have a coach who doesn't know anything, just doesn't know the game, right? And he had a bunch of talent and they couldn't win. Now that's not the coach's fault because that was who the school hired and he only knows what he knows and whatever it is. So your goal changes to now I'm going to be a high school coach because I don't want to see these kids with potential waste away. So now your goal has changed. So it's no longer NBA. It's now you want to be a coach, right? So now you redirect your time and your effort. So do you end up being what you want to be? Absolutely. Is it what you set out to be? Probably not, but it doesn't matter. Life changes. Things happen. Things impact you in your life in different ways. And, but as long as you're putting in the time and the effort and making the right choices, heck yeah, you're successful. You can become everybody.
I think there's a key difference between working hard and working smart. And something I personally learned recently is that the only shortcut to success is found at the intersection where your strengths shine the most and you have the least amount of competition. And I took that away from a personal experience I had recently in school, but I didn't realize until later that it's exactly what I did my freshman year of high school. So back then, the idea I had was I was playing soccer, obviously at a very competitive level. And back then at this competitive level, you were not allowed to play high school soccer because it was a year-round season, year-round league. So it would just not work at all with high school. So we were just not allowed to play high school soccer. But I was a freshman and I really wanted a varsity Letterman jacket. I just really wanted one. I wanted to be the only freshman with a varsity Letterman jacket. And I was like, what could I do in order to make this work? And I was like, you know what? Like soccer, there's plenty of running. I'll just join the track team for like one season in freshman year. Then I go and I see all these runners and I've never been exposed to cross country or track. And I see all these guys that are much older and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can compete with these guys. Like these guys are fast. But then I noticed something. I noticed nobody was signed up for the 3,200 race. 3,200 meters, 2 miles. Nobody wanted to run that. So immediately I just raised my hand. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll do it. And of course, since there's nobody competing, I immediately just jumped to varsity. And that's what I did. That set me apart. It was, I knew maybe physically back then I wasn't able to compete, but mentally I was. And since nobody else wanted to do it, there was no competition there. My strengths shined, and that's how I ended up getting my varsity Letterman jacket as a freshman. And it's a funny little story, but when you really apply it to your life, I think it definitely helps a lot, because if you can just make a list, like I think this is probably something I would have wanted to know myself when I was younger. If you can make a list of all your strengths, and then from those strengths, recognize or notice how many competitors you have per each one, and you choose the one where there's the least amount of competition, that's working smart. Because then you can work your hardest at that one piece of strength, and that's when you become special. Instead of having to beat your competition, you just don't even have any competition. I think there's little differences like that. That's fun to play around with.
Yeah, that's definitely looking for the opportunity, right? You look for the opportunity. And that's another, we didn't even talk about this one unless it's very, the more, okay, it's RAS, right? It's when you buy a blue car, you see that blue car everywhere. They were already there, right? They've always been there. It's your shoes. You buy a pair of shoes, everybody's got them. You're like, I didn't know everybody's wearing these shoes. They've always been there, right? But because it's not important to you or something that you do, you don't see it. Opportunities are exactly the same. If you look for opportunities in everything, you will find more of them. And then people are like, oh, well, you were just lucky. No, luck is opportunity and skill meeting 100%. And so as you look for those opportunities, you'll find more and more and more of them. Right. And you will find where you shine, right? Bloom where you're planted, or whatever, however you want to look at it. Right. If there's some quote or somebody said something about, like, if I was going to be a street sweeper, I'd be the best street sweeper there is. Like, every company would come to me to ask me how I do it or whatever. Right. And that's just mindset, and that's looking for opportunity. Right. And if you do that, you'll find more opportunities because you're looking for them. Right. Instead of being negative, I'll never do this, I'll never do that. No, you're the guy. I always recognize a good opportunity, because it's just weird. Because like you said, the guy who got the best job out of college, just kept his room clean. But there's correlation in how you do anything is how you do everything. Right. And so, I mean, dude, that's a great story. I want a Letterman's jacket. I can't play soccer. I'm going to run 2 miles. I'm in, done, mission accomplished. Right. Dude. Brilliant.
It's so just interesting as well, because especially with luck, right? I do believe that I don't like the word luck. I actually, fun fact about me, I keep a $2 bill in my wallet, and I have written, like, with Sharpie on it, that it just says luck doesn't exist. Like, I hate that idea, but I've come to understand it as luck equals like preparation plus opportunity. And the thing that's interesting about that is that the opportunity may show up and people may call you lucky for that. But if you're not prepared, nobody's going to call you lucky, because you actually just burned so many bridges. The opportunity showed up for you, and it's like, well, I don't want to hire this kid. I don't want to give this kid an opportunity. I don't want to give this kid a scholarship. And something people don't notice is that coaches and bosses and whatever, they talk. So one coach is going to tell another coach, you don't want that kid. You don't want to be with him. And this actually happened very recently. I was helping out some college coaches at a big tournament that happened recently, and they all talk amongst themselves, and they know which kid is good for which school. And there's smaller schools that look at the bigger schools and say, look, this kid came to me, but I think he's better at your program because he's just much better for the level. It'll help him out in the future. They actually do that. And I'm sure that's how it works across all things in life. So it's not luck unless you're prepared. The opportunity, sure, that's incredible. But if it comes to you and you're not prepared, you're screwed. On the other hand, if you are prepared, bingo.
Yeah, it's like financially, right? Opportunities happen. oh, here's this car for sale. It's the car I've always wanted. And it's like only $5,000 or whatever, right? The person's got to move, or they're a friend of a friend, and they're like, yeah, you can have it for, dirt cheap. If you don't got that money in your pocket, opportunity gone, right? So you're right. You always got to be prepared, and you know what you really need to be doing. I mean, whatever your goal is, right? If your goal is this, you know what you need to be doing. And if you don't know, you could find that within 2 hours on YouTube. You could have a very detailed list of what you need to do to be successful in that. Somebody would probably sell you a course in it too, right? But I mean, it's out. Knowledge is out there. The knowledge is out there. All you got to do is go get it and spend a little time. Take that, whatever your screen time is, cut it in half. Make half of it listen. I don't think I posted about this, but I thought about it the other day. You need 2 accounts. You need 2 social media accounts. You need this is my athletic account, right? I look at soccer players. I look at people who break down film. I look at whatever it is, right? Nutrition, rehab, prehab, right? Injury prevention, whatever it is, right? And then you have your regular account, your entertainment account, right? Where you talk to your bros and all that other stuff. And, because the algorithm will feed them each differently. And if you're like, okay, it's social media time, right? Or, I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes looking at stuff, 15 of it on my sports account, 15 of it on my me account, right? You'll get so much more out of that. And and you always got to start with your sports account. Because you'll probably just keep on there, because you're going to find some good stuff. You're going to find an account this guy breaks down this skill that you really need to know. And he's got 12 hours of content. Like, you're going to eat that up, right? You can't even pay for that type of, where you're going to get one-on-one and all that other stuff. So yeah, it's the Wild West out there, man. It's there for the taking. If you want it, you can go get it.
Last 3 to start wrapping up here. Small goal setting allows you to rack up the wins and start building consistency, because consistency creates habits, and habits achieve goals. If somebody's listening to this right now and they are starting from scratch, they're starting from zero, they have nothing, where do you point them? What's the right direction to head in?
So you gotta reverse engineer it, right? But let me just explain what I mean about small goals. If my goal is to lose 100 pounds, and that's my goal, it's going to take me, 3 years to lose 100 pounds or whatever, right? Whatever the healthy, you're never going to get there, because you haven't reached anything. You haven't accomplished anything, right? So people only do what they're rewarded for, right? Or to avoid pain, one of the two, right? Those are the only 2 reasons you do anything. So if you reward yourself every day, make your clean your room checklist, and you cross those things off, that's a win. Bing, I won, right? Okay. My next habit, my next whatever it is, I did it. I won, right? You start racking up these wins, because you know what it's like to have, if you have a bad day, right? Oh, I'm so lazy, or, oh, I'm so this, or I'm so that, or whatever it is. You're just basically, telling yourself what your weaknesses are. Like, okay, cool. We all got weaknesses, right? I'm not saying nobody does, but why would you talk about them all the time to yourself? Talk about your strengths and your wins, right? So now it's not, I'm so lazy, right? It's, yep, I cleaned my room, got another X on the calendar or whatever. Yep, I did my 30 minutes of film study, got that going, right? And you build momentum, which builds consistency, right? All these were, consistency, momentum, all this stuff, inspiration, motivation, they're all kind of lumped together in the same, motivational stuff, but they all mean different things, right? And so what you have to do is you have to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Set up the system, set up the process, execute on it. I need to do 5 steps a day, right? Because I guarantee you, if you made a list of like, I need to eat McDonald's in the morning, and you made like a lazy list, right? You could easily hit that lazy list and you're still doing things, right? They're just not They're probably unhealthy and they're kind of a waste of your potential and whatever, right? But you could easily hit that. If your goal was, I got to do 3 hours of COD every day, you hit it, right? But if you don't have something to replace that win with, you'll never be consistent. And if you're not consistent, you won't be successful. Consistency is the key to anything. Gaining weight, losing weight. You're consistently eating more calories. You're consistently eating less calories. You're consistently working out. You're not working out, right? If you got a job financially, you're consistently saving money or you're consistently spending money, right? It is what it is. And I think one of the ones earlier was, you can't predict your future, but you can predict your habits, and those are a precursor to your future and stuff like that. You definitely have control of where your life goes. Now you're going to hit obstacles and stuff like that and trials and whatnot, but somebody who faces a trial in one position in life and somebody who faces it in another, even if it's just being prepared for it, they're going to have different outcomes. So why wouldn't you give yourself the best chance of winning every single day? You stack up the wins. You stack up. Now you're not the person who just, I clean my room. No, you're the person who never has a dirty room or whatever it is, right? You build up those wins and it becomes who you are. I don't play soccer. I'm a soccer player. That's a key one right there. It's who you are. And again, you're talking about cleaning my room. I'm going to be successful if I clean my room. No, you're successful because you have dedication and consistency to keep a clean room. And so that translates into your nutrition life. That translates into your training. That translates into your relationships. That translates into your spiritual life. That translates into your education. That translates into your job. Yeah. Keep your room clean. Like, it is what it is. And yeah, they're the outliers, but I mean, come on, man. Success leaves footprints.
I just released an episode very recently with Coach Mo Satara, and his athletes just went off in the Olympics right now. He's a throwing coach on the track and field team at Cal. And I mean, one of my best friends, Cameron Rogers, just winning gold at the Olympics right now in hammer throwing. And then Alenkna Mikolas, he won silver and set the world's record this year for discus, which is unreal. It's like crazy levels. And I sat down with him, talked with him, and I asked him about goals, and he just told me it's not so much about goals as it is about objectives. And it sounds like the same thing. So I asked him, like, what do you mean? And he was saying, maybe the goal is like going to a steakhouse. And the goal is the steak. You want the steak. You're there for the steak. But leading up to the steak, you'll have an appetizer here and there. You'll have a little thing, a little drink, a little appetizer, whatever it may be. And those are the objectives. And if you can think about it that way, it's that reward system that just keeps on giving over and over and over again. You're happier. You see progress. You don't want to break the chain. You keep the streak going. And eventually steak shows up, and maybe there's even a cherry on top with the sundae at the end, whatever that may be. But the only way you get there is by enjoying that little process of getting up there. And it made so much sense to me, because I think the easiest way to start any of these habits is by keeping the bar so low for your expectations that it's ridiculously easy to start stacking up the bricks. And eventually it gives you enough momentum to build an entire house. But you can only start if you just like take a listen. It's like, my goal for today is to release one 10-second video. Oh, that's pretty easy. I could do it. All right. My goal tomorrow is a 10-second video, and tomorrow and tomorrow and then it just becomes a thing. And eventually it'll be 30 seconds, a minute, 10 minutes, whatever, an entire podcast, but that's the easiest way to do it, by setting the bar so low that it's legitimately inevitable to do the thing, or embarrassing not to. Like if it's as easy as like today, today I don't want to do anything besides make my bed. It's like you could do that, I don't want to do anything except go for a 10-minute walk. I'm not talking about a run. I'm not talking about anything. It's like, do one lap. Like if I get this question a lot because I'm a runner, right? And I actually started running a year ago this time, and I struggled. I'll post it soon. I struggled to complete in my very first run. I struggled to complete 5 kilometers. I couldn't. I think I finished at like 309, something like that for miles. I just couldn't get to the 315 mark. I couldn't. And now like this morning I'm doing a half marathon every single Saturday. And it's like totally easy for me now. But the only reason I could do that is because I started small. And I actually, it's the law of 10%, which is you add 10% to your mileage every single week, and it keeps on going and going and going. And now it's like in November, a half marathon was the longest run of my life. And now it's like, I'll do that any given Saturday, you know, like, and it's not that crazy. I just did it every single day and added 10% to that over and over and over again until I got here.
Yeah, that's a very, I like how you said that. Make it so ridiculously easy to succeed because you're habit stacking. You're increasing the habit. You're 10%ing it, right? Yeah. You think about, I mean, dude, you made me tired just talking about running half a marathon or whatever, like every other Saturday, holy smokes. But you're right. If you would have said, I mean, I'm going to start, nobody starts training for a marathon running the length of a marathon. Like nobody does, right? You take it in little steps. And I mean, this is what I'm talking about. The success leaves footprints. You know what works. There's a reason why all these, like, you were talking to that coach, like psychologically, right? There's sports psychologists. There's, sports nutrition. I mean, there's a science to it. Mentally, physically, there's, you can tap into all this stuff. And as a student athlete, you don't have to put all that money out. Like I said, you could find all this stuff on the internet. You find it on TikTok. You can find it on YouTube, right? It's all out there. How do you spend your screen time? What are you willing to do? It's just, yeah. I mean, it's that. I think Vinny Paz, what was that movie? Oh, cause he broke his neck, right? Have you seen that movie?
No.
Yeah. So he's a boxer, right? Breaks his neck, comes back, fights again. And he says, his quote is it is that simple. It's that simple, right? Cause that's what he told himself. You just got to do the work. It's that simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. So how do you make it easy for yourself? Whatever hacks you got to do, what little small habits you got to do, just set yourself up for success. Again, if somebody said, man, I want to be a star athlete and I will do anything you tell me to do and I'll give you $1 million a year, you'd be on it. You'd be learning. You'd be doing some research. You'd be figuring it out. Just figure it out for yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Treat yourself better than you treated anybody else, right? Except maybe your parents. Yeah, just excellence in everything, man. It's out there for the taking. 90% don't start, right? They'll start, they'll end up fading out. They won't want it as much as you. It's there no matter what your dream is. I don't care what it is.
Second to last one is my personal longtime favorite from your account. The goal isn't going pro. The goal is getting to the next level. From the stands to the team, from the bench into the game, from the C team to JV, from JV to varsity, from varsity to starting varsity, from high school to college, from college to semi-pro, from semi-pro to pro. You've got this. I believe in you. Why do you think so many people, again, make up the immediate mindset of let me go pro? Like you're playing high school and it's like, I want to go pro immediately. Like that. If it's not pro, it's bust. If it's not D1, I don't want it. Why, you know what? Actually, tell me where this came from. I'm curious how you even got this idea to write this down.
It came from somebody asking me, hey, I want to play in the NBA. What do I need to do? And I said, okay, well, what grade are you in? What team are you on? Do you start? Do you not start? And he said, I'm on the freshman team and I don't get any playing time. And I said, well, okay, that's a long jump to the NBA, bro. That's a huge jump, right? Now I'm not telling him this, but I'm thinking it. I'm like, okay, well, no. How about this? How about we get you in the game? What do you need to do to get in the game? He's like, well, I'm not a very good dribbler, right? I don't have good, handles or whatever. It's like, okay, let's start at that level. Right? And so I started thinking, and I should repost this one, is at some point in time, Like, what? Take your sport, right? So Kobe Bryant, let's go basketball, right? At some point in his life, he was skill wise exactly where you are. He was at that level at some point in his life. Now, how long did he stay there? Right? Maybe he actually skipped it. I don't know. Maybe he was always that good or whatever, right? But everybody progresses. You stink at it and you become good at it, right? That's why camps are so huge. That's why kids mostly go to 2 camps. The first camp they go to, they increase so exponentially. Their parents like, holy smokes. Next camp comes around, right? Another year, their kid goes, they don't get that much better. And it's like, what happened? Well, when you stink, it's very easy to become better because you have to do just very simple things and you become better, right? And the more you become, the better you become, the more you have to work. So in terms of like, I had to put 10 hours to increase one level. Okay. Well, and then from level 2, well, now you got to put in 12 hours to increase a level. And then at level 3, you got to put in 15 hours to increase a level, right? Because you're becoming better, right? And so everything is progression, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step and then 2 steps and 3 steps, right? How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, right? So if you really think about, well, my goal is to go to the NBA, but you never get any playing time, you probably get, you don't like the game very much or whatever. And so you quit, you don't end up playing. And so we have these dreams about going to the NBA or going pro because that's the dream. That's the story, the underdog story, right? That's what drives your passion for the game or whatever. And then it becomes, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure it happens. And now I'm getting starting time or playing time. Well, now I'm a starter. Now I'm a starter on the freshman team, right? Because it doesn't matter what team you're on, what level you're at. It's do you play in the game, right? And so now JV coach pulled me up, man. I could only play 2 minutes in the freshman game because I played 2 quarters in the freshman game because I played up, right? Okay. Next level. And before you know it, they're playing at a D1 college or a D3 college, or, they won state their freshman or their, his senior year and he didn't play ball in college. Right. If you look too far out, you'll never make it. Right. And depending on what level you're at skill wise, you would probably learn more from a person. So if you're in high school, and you got trained for 1 week by the best player in the world, you would pick some stuff up, but you wouldn't pick a lot of it up because you wouldn't be able to perform at that level, right? You need to be learning from somebody who's just a couple levels above you. That's why I'm a firm believer in that varsity teams. And this is the thing I never really liked. Varsity teams and junior high teams, or not junior high, but JV teams. They're like different teams. Right? I never saw the varsity guys, like the JV team didn't run the same offense as the varsity offense. What is that? Why wouldn't you? Right? Like you have to know. Now, obviously, I guess either the other one coach thought it was better. Maybe the other coach didn't know how to run that type of offense or whatever. I don't know, but it's just what the next level is. Right? And if that's just getting in the game, then just get in the game. And then once you're in the game, worry about becoming the top scorer or whatever the very next step is. And that's how you become successful. It goes back to stacking up daily wins, right? It goes back to how you do anything is how you do everything. It's all rolled into one. And once you figure it out and actually apply it, right? Your life becomes a little different as an athlete because now you're better than everybody else by just a little bit, but enough.
It's that same idea of keeping the bar low, like you were mentioning. And I think there's also this concept of SMART goals. I don't know if you've heard of this, but just like the whole SMART goal idea of specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And if you can break it down that way, again, you gain momentum, it leads you in the right direction, and eventually you'll get there. So what was, like you said, what was the big elephant of going pro? became one bite at a time, and eventually you got there. So love that. That's my all-time favorite from you for sure. And I think it's a great lesson, not only for sports, but again, sports is a metaphor for life, and it works out there. But now finally, the last one, and this is not my all-time, but my recent favorite one. True leaders aren't threatened by others' accomplishments. They celebrate them. Be that type of leader. What does that leader look like?
So teams always need a leader. And usually by default, the best player is the leader, right? Because everybody just looks to him like in, high school and, well, he must be the leader. He scores the most points or whatever, right? You don't have to be the best player to be the leader. People have a goal, right? Your goal might be to get enough stats to get a scholarship. My goal might be, I just want to impress my girlfriend, right? But we're both on the same team, right? We're both on the same team. Very different goals. Now, I'm going to follow somebody who's going to help me achieve my goal. And you're going to follow somebody who's going to help you achieve your goal, right? And the leader is the person who knows that while everybody has the same general goal is to win the game, win the championship, right? They all have different reasons for wanting to do it. And so as the leader, if you're threatened by that other guy you're the best player on the team, right? And you're threatened by that guy becoming better because he might take your spot. Like I understand the mindset because you need the stats for school or whatever the deal is or whatever it is. However, you should be coming better as well. So if you're already ahead of him, you just keep working, you're going to continue. But I need him to become better. I need the other guy to get better. You really need everybody on the team to get better, right? So you're not worried about somebody else becoming better. And now they're looking for a leader because people just by default, that's human nature. Somebody's got to lead us, right? You can take that position, right? And leaders get a lot of minutes, right? Now, yes, you got to have some skills to be in the game, right? But they're looking for that. The coach is looking for somebody to translate his message onto the game in game time, right? So to be able to get people to follow you, you have to know what motivates them. And if you know what motivates them, you want them to get better. So you're not threatened by them. Rising tide raises all boats or whatever, right? The goal as a team should be everybody gets better. Everybody gets better. And if that means that maybe you don't get as many points because everybody's getting points, I mean, yes and no, but it's a very fine line to walk, especially with college and NIL money and stuff like that. Now it's just so different, but be the leader of the team.
I think something I noticed recently, especially with the Olympic sports, which obviously do represent teams, but there's many Olympic sports where it's an individual sport rather than a team performance, right? And one of the best things I've learned from Paris 2024 comes from Simone Biles and Katie Ledecky, both, in gymnastics, in swimming, which, yes, team points, but it's very individualistic sports. And what I took away from that is greatness is measured by how much you pushed others towards it. The goal is to lift others as you climb. So if you look at Simone Biles and seeing how the Brazilian Rebecca Andrade just pushed her more and more and more. And not only that, but Simone's skills just raised Rebecca with her. Or Katie Ledecky, right. Again, 4-time Olympic champion in the same event, 12-year span is ridiculous, right? And the Australian Ariane Titmus said this as well. She said, and you can see it right after the race. They're still in the pool. They're next to each other in the lanes. And immediately she just says, thank you for making me a better athlete. Because that's what happens when you're pushing yourself consistently over and over and over again. And I think that's why we need competition, because it makes us better. I think greatness is measured by how much you push others towards it. And if you can hang out with people that just reset your expectations, that reset your standards in that way, we all become continuously better over and over and over again. Because many people think, oh, there's no competition here. Going back to my initial point of like, how do you start out? Yeah, it's nice at the beginning not to have any competition because it immediately makes you stand out. But you need some sort of competition to achieve things that you thought weren't even possible. And that's how you get the world records. That's how you get the Olympic records, by having somebody to push you to a level that you just didn't even know was possible.
Yeah, it's definitely, even with individual sports, there's still a team, right? It might be your parents or your trainers or your nutritionists or whatever, right? It's always a team effort. But you're right. That's how you get better. If you want to get better, you got to play against somebody who's better than you. If you always beat whoever you play against, that's why some of these teams, when they're like beating teams like 80-12 or whatever, it's like, okay, I get it. Well, like, those guys are so good. No, those other guys are just so bad, right? And that team, if you're always blowing everybody out, none of that team's ever going to progress, right? So that's when schools get moved up a rank, right? Even though they don't fit the numbers, they don't have enough students, their skill level is so great, they got to move them up, right? And so that only happened because those players on that team are pushing each other, right? Somebody is driving you. You have to have somebody to chase, essentially. Everybody is chasing somebody, right? And, you're a runner. Don't have any experience in this at all, but I would imagine it's probably the greatest thing when you're running and you pass somebody. You're in a race and you just like, and you just, later, dude, like, I'm better than you. And hey, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. See you later. And then you get the next guy and the next guy because you're chasing them. They're pushing you for greatness. Happens on the teams, happens with everybody. And yeah, it's an awesome thing. I love sports. Sports are so cool.
Sports are great. I would say the one main difference between running and other sports such as soccer, for example, I think the see you later bit is easier in soccer, basketball, football. But with running, I think it's also just so fascinating because your progress is quantifiable. So it's not necessarily about running past someone and saying later, dude, because I've been in that position as well. And somebody that I know is slower than me will pass me. But they had like, that day was their workout day. And that day for me was my recovery run. So you do have to understand that everybody's in their own lane. Everybody's running their own race. But the beauty comes that everybody has their own time. And when you measure your progress against your own time, that's a different ballgame because it's not necessarily about getting the Olympic medal, but it's about setting your own personal best. That to me is fascinating. Of course, when somebody can push you to achieve your personal best and you can get the result, incredible. But I think it's more about pushing your own personal best rather than getting any sort of placement or any sort of medal. Personally, that's how I see it when it comes to running.
Yeah, I would agree. My nephews ran cross country stuff and they're always talking about their PR. What place you come in? I don't know, but I PR'd. Like that was it. It was nothing else. And you're right. It's self-competition and stuff. But yeah, PRs are really, really big in the I didn't know, like, my kids didn't, run track and stuff. And I'm like, oh, so your competition is you, huh? And it's like, yeah, because you're right. You know what your expectations are and stuff. And it's just like, yeah. And once you figure out whatever that special thing about your sport is, like what is unique about the sport and how do people who excel at the sport, what do they really know? That's when you can go next level, whatever that level is. C team to JV to, varsity, whatever. It's all about progression.
Coach Riley, it's been a pleasure. I enjoyed this so much. I got way more out of it than I was expecting, which is always so nice. It tends to happen with these incredible conversations that I'm just so honored to have. And it's always so nice knowing that, it's going to be a good guest, going to be a good conversation, but always passing the expectations is just incredible. And it's a gift. So I do appreciate your time, your knowledge, being willing to come on, and hopefully we could do it again sometime. I mean, you keep posting, I'll keep reading, and we could make this a 6-month thing, if anything.
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait to listen to the podcast. I mean, bro, I'm getting my notebook out. There's like 800 things in here that we just touched on that I'm like, hold on, here's a month of content. Here's a month of here's 3 programs I can create. Like dude, we drop crazy knowledge, man. That's what I love about talking to people in this space is like, cause nobody around, like, I talk to my parents and my kids and my wife and people at work. Like they're not just typical same mindset, right? We're in the same space, but it's not the same mindset. And so, yeah, when I have these conversations, on these podcasts and I've done some interviews and stuff, it's just fantastic. It's some of the best times that I've had. And, that goes back to technology. You either use it for your advantage or use it for, to just coast through or whatever. And it's I mean, who would have thunk it, right? So you're, this incredible soccer athlete, huge, some guys in the Olympics, like that's crazy talk. Who am I? I'm just some dude. I know like an ex-football player and doing some stuff. It's like, you never would have known. And I love crossing paths with certain people. And, it's just always awesome to talk to somebody, and the back and forth is, crazy.
That's the beauty of social media. And that's why I'm so grateful for it. Especially, I mean, again, very first virtual episode. So Alaska and California, this is just the beauty of technology today and using it to our favor. For now, if anybody is new to your content for some reason, for some odd reason, where could they find you? What could they expect from you?
Pretty much just mainly on Instagram, 6 a.m. practice, 6 a.m. _ practice. But I'm sure if you just like type in 6 a.m. practice, I'm mainly there. Like you can DM me. I'm doing some, I got a podcast, right? Just on Spotify and, iHeartRadio, stuff like that. 6 a.m. practice. Talk to some incredible people there. And, I can't wait to do it again. I mean, it's been an honor. It's good times going down memory lane, man. So I'm like, I forgot about that post. Oh, and that made me think of that post. And that's the problem. I wish I was better organized so I could go back and find some of those gems. Need to hire a virtual assistant to scroll through it or something. I don't know.
Well, Coach, it's been a pleasure. Again, hopefully we can make this a 6-month thing or so, and we'll keep making these trips down to memory lane. But for now, for anybody that watched on YouTube or listened on Spotify, thank you guys so much. That's it for today. Coach Riley, thank you again. We'll be in touch, and see you all next time.